So far, we've been talking about musical distance between notes, and at a very basic level, that has been in tones and semitones. From there, we built our scales. So, for instance, the major scale was TTS, TTS, tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Well, once we have our scale, and even before then, we can use another term which I used just earlier in the previous section, and to describe the distance between the two notes, and that is an interval. We can have ascending intervals or we can have descending intervals. A melodic interval is the distance between two notes that are played one after the other, like a melody, whereas a harmonic is when they are played simultaneously or at the same time. The first note is always the bass, and the note to which we move is the end limit. The first one is considered 1, and then we go from there. So looking at some ascending intervals from A in our key of A, we can go from A to B, which is going from 1 to 2, so that's a second. If I go from A to C sharp, I'm going up 1, 2, 3, so that's a third. 1, 4 is a fourth, from A to E is a fifth, and so on. It's all pretty basic. If we look at our triads in the same way, we notice something. In their basic position, which is here, which we call root position, each note is 1/3 above the other. So for A, C, E, the distance between A and C is a third, 1, 2, 3. And to go from C to E, which is here, C, D, E, that is also a third. Let's think about that for a second. We have 3 letters, as I said, to make up our 1, A, C, E. Couldn't we rearrange those letters and get C, E, A or EAC, just like a jumble? They have the same notes, so wouldn't they be the same chord? And sure enough, they are. If we go down, we can take a look here and see that we have an ACE. Well, we can take that C and flip it. And we can take the C and move, sorry, not the C, but the A, flip it and put it up on top here. So we have a CEA. When we put it at the top of the class, we did something called inversion. We can do that same thing again, and from the second one, we can take the C and flip it on its head to the top of the class and do a second inversion, and we have yet another chord. But something happened there. Did you notice it in the score? We started out on all the lines, and then we had notes that were on 2 lines in 1 space, and then we had a line in 2 spaces. That is because we have an odd number of letters in our musical alphabet. We only have 7, A through G, and the letters switch from spaces to line to spaces and so on when we move from one octave to the other. So 1A, if it's on a space, in the next octave above or below will be on a line. That makes our intervals change as well, as you can see. So in root position, the distance between the notes are thirds, as I mentioned. A to C is a third, and then C to E is a third. When we do the inversion, well, there enough, we see that we keep the second third that we talked about before up here, but now the distance between the bottom note and the top note is a sixth, because the distance between the E and the A is a fourth. Let's look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a fourth. When we do that inversion yet again, we have the fourth that we just created between the E and the A, but the C moves up on top, so it moves up into that space, and then you've got a space and a space above that, and that's a third, right? So the distance between the E and the C is a sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the distance between the A and the C, which we saw at the very, very beginning, is a third. That might seem a little bit confusing in a way, but it is actually a blessing, because it means, just like we use those Roman numerals to easily represent a group of notes within the context of our scale, which is again our idea of tonality, instead of just giving each one a name, an A major, a B minor, a C sharp minor, and so on, we can actually give numbers to these types of chords in terms of their root, first inversion, or second inversion. What we do typically is we skip the thirds. So in that case, the root position is simply called the 1. Easy enough. When we go into the other one, we talked about this note, this interval here, which is a third from the bass. So we always look at the distance from the bass itself. Here we have a third, here we have a fifth. So we just ignore that, and we call that a 1. In this case, we ignore that with 3 there, and we look at the distance between the bottom note and the top note. And as I said, that's a sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with C being the first. So that's called a 1/6. The 1 tells us that in A major, we have our 3 letters, A, C, E, but in this position, we've just simply flipped it once. Now, let's look at this other one here. The bass note here, when we flipped it, is now an E. So the distance we talked about before between the bottom note and the top note is a sixth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the distance to go from the E to the A is a fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the second inversion is called a 1/6/4, which means that the 1 is the ACE, but the 6/4 tells us we flipped it on its head twice. Let's give a listen to all of these, and you'll be actually able to hear how they sound and how we actually build build the chords, since I arpeggiated them. And you'll actually hear that all of the chords between the 1, the 1/6, and the 1/6/4, they all sound the same, but really the one that sounds the most grounded is the 1. The 1 in root position, that is the one which is most like home. And now the arpeggiated. The 1/6 chord, first inversion. And the second inversion, 1/6/4. And when we put them all side by side, here's what they sound like in order. Root, first inversion, second inversion.